Next section we're going to cover is the software interface for the Gen 7 diving program. We're going to select the Gen 7 diving icon here. You can see along with swimming we have our version number down at the bottom. This is where we would load our meat from eDive or divemeats.com or something like that, and you would see your meat pop up here. Since we don't have one of those programs here yet, we're going to select a sample meat, and in that sample meat we're going to use the Women's Platform Finals Unscored. Alright, on this screen, which is our meat setup screen, we have all of our different divers in their dive order. If I click on a certain diver, I can see how many dives that diver is going to do, what their dives are, the degree of difficulty, all that kind of stuff. If we want to scratch a diver, we can do this. Let's say Sarah Campbell is not going to be with us today. We're going to scratch that diver. Our dive order stays the same. If we want to, because this event's already going, I can't set the dive order. But if this were at the beginning of the meet, I could say set dive order and make it get rid of 2 through 12 and be 1 through 11. Also on this screen, we can select our judges for panel A and panel B just by entering if I can type today. We'll just put me in for judge number 1. Once we have all of the judges entered, if we want to do that, we can run the event. Right now we're starting round 1 of 11 with diver number 2. If I go to my judges call and I select panel A, if I look out on judge number 1's judging terminal, you'll see that it's got my name and that I know that I am judge number 1. If we have judges inputted for the rest of the JTs, it'll be very easy for your judges to identify themselves and know which judge they are. Once I go back to judging mode, we'll see the dive information for the current diver on the JT. Shows what dive they're doing, what they are in the dive order, their name, and the degree of difficulty. It will also allow us to enter scores at this point. So for judge number 1, I thought that was a great dive. I'm going to enter 9.5 and hit send. It shows that my 9.5 was sent, and here in the software you see 9.5 came in for judge number 1. Let's say I've reconsidered that and I really want to change my score. All I have to do is hit request change. In the software here you see that it's come up in red. Double click. It will allow the JT to go back to its initial state, so I can say it wasn't that great, I'm going to give her a 9. And then the 9 comes in. This is the same for any of the JTs. If I enter a 10 over here and a 10 over here, we'll have, once all the scores come in, you look up on the scoreboard and you'll see the scores for that diver come in. At this point, if we don't have any penalties, we can advance to the next dive. If we do have a penalty, we can select that amount of deduction right here in this drop-down menu. But if we don't have any penalties, we just move on to the next diver. Next diver is Ruth Gonzalez. If, let's say, Ruth, instead of wanting to do a 201C, wants to do a 301B, we can edit the dive, change that to a 301B. Okay, and now Ruth is doing a 301B. If we're having somebody write down scores and we're hustling through pretty quick, you can see the first diver right down here in this section. So whoever's writing down scores just has to look at this while the next dive is going on. We have the easy way to see the previous diver's scores. Okay, let's say Ruth has come down with an injury of some kind and they're gonna allow her to be skipped. Right click on Ruth's name and say skip diver. It's gonna give you a little warning message that says, do you want to skip this dive? You can come back and score it later, and we say yes. So we're gonna skip Ruth and go on to Kimberly. Kimberly got an 8, an 8.5, and a 7.5. But she balked, so she's gonna get a 2-point deduct. Yes, we really wanna do that. All right, we go on to the next diver, Michelle Perez, and she gets an 8, an 8.5, and a 9. That was a good dive. We move on to the next diver, Helen King, and she gets an 8, an 8, and an 8. And you see down here, a little thing comes up, says bingo, because that is a bingo dive. We get all the scores the same, that's a bingo. Over on the right-hand side here, you see a leaderboard kind of popping up. Let's say the diver that had the medical issue is ready to dive now, so we can go to this icon here, last skipped. Goes back to Ruth Gonzalez. Ruth comes up and she nails it, 10, 10, 10. Another bingo. And once Ruth is done, we have to go back to our next diver, which is going to be Sharon Carter. Sharon comes in, puts her dives in, and so on and so forth. That is as easy as it gets and fairly straightforward and simple. That is the diving interface for our Gen 7 diving.